May this be a clear channel of our light, our medicine for the world to benefit from for the highest good of this planet, including ourselves. Aho.
Amen. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to Simply Being. This has been a project of mine that I started about 5 years ago. So it's such a pleasure for me to be here with my very good friend, Evan Wright, who I met at Bastyr University in the Naturopathic Medical School here in San Diego. And we've gotten really close through our love for nature and connection. And so thank you so much for being here, Evan.
Thanks for having me.
So, Evan, what would you say is the first thing you would want people to know about naturopathic medicine?
I think a lot of people don't know what naturopathic medicine is. That's probably a good place to start. But to me, naturopathic medicine in the word is kind of nature. And I've always been super inspired by the natural world. Growing up, running around in woods barefoot, my family grew up kind of with like a patch of woods behind our house. So the natural world has always been like my biggest inspiration. And it's what I always come back to. And to me, that's kind of at the heart of naturopathic medicine is a strong belief in our original nature as humans on this planet, as beings that live off of the earth, that are a part of the earth. In our society, it's become increasingly disconnected from the earth, and I think our natural way of living, it is a medicine, which is medicine. It's like, as we learn all the medical school stuff, and all the pathologies and all about the different organ systems, but there's this core philosophy about understanding how we remain vital by remaining connected to ourselves and to the earth and the foundations of health. And I mean, I think I could easily just kind of like run off into like all of the principles of naturopathic medicine, but yeah, to me, it's just a beautiful philosophy and way of understanding our bodies and how our bodies are healthy. Like we are health and vitality, and what are the obstacles that are standing in the way of our bodies being able to naturally do what they do. So clearing obstacles and returning back to the foundations of health.
Wow, I love the way that you brought everything together, because we'll go into the principles and all of the determinants of health, but essentially it is really about trusting nature, because our body is nature. So the more that we trust nature and are intertwined with it and trust that it does everything perfectly, that's the way that our body also works. It knows exactly what to do. It's just sometimes we do have obstacles that are not allowing it to do so. So really studying all of this and knowing that we get to be that space for the person to be able to go through all of these things and changes and transformations, so that they do return to nature and can hopefully live the most optimal life that they can.
Yeah, I love how you said that. It's like we are nature.
Yeah. With like our patients, the more that we help them trust that, they're going to trust themselves. And that's what we want, essentially, is someone to feel like they are capable of healing on their own.
So just for background information, I'm going to go through the 6 foundational principles of naturopathic medicine. The first is primum non nocere, first, do no harm. So in naturopathic medicine, we are always trying to do the least possible to elicit this healing process in a living organism. The goal is to not hurt the person through the means of healing. So sometimes, you might get surgery because of, a broken bone or some sort of physiological defect. And sometimes that's a good thing. Other times you might get surgery when it's not necessary, and it actually, creates scarring and damage in the system that wasn't necessary. And so that's an example where you might actually do more harm than good through trying to heal someone in that way. Number 2 is vis medicatrix naturae, the healing power of nature. This is all about the body's natural innate ability to heal itself. And as naturopathic doctors, we honor this inherent capacity of all living organisms to heal, and understanding that this is a natural thing that living organisms and our bodies know how to do. Our job as doctors is to remove the obstacles that are standing in the way of this healing process and stimulating this healing process. Number 3 is tole causum, identify and treat the cause. This is about trying to find the root cause of the issue rather than simply treating the symptoms that are presenting on the outside. So whether this is a physical, emotional, genetic, environmental, or even a spiritual imbalance, this principle is all about trying to identify what is the root and then treating that rather than the symptoms. Number 4, one of my favorites. This is docere, which means doctor is teacher. This honors and empowers the individual who is doing the healing themselves. It's not the doctor really doing the healing, it's the person and their body, the natural healing power of their own body. And so doctor as teacher is all about education and empowering people with the knowledge and information that they need to make the choices and live their life in a way that allows this healing, whether that's scientific information or lived experience in some way. It's teaching a person information so that they are armed and equipped with the knowledge that they need to live a healthy life. Number 5, tole totem, treat the whole person. This is all kind of about the complexity of a living system, and so rather than isolating a human or an organism down to the organs or the physical part of the body that is eliciting symptoms, we are looking at the organism as a whole thing. And so rather than just treating the specific organ or body part or whatever that is having an issue, we are treating the whole person and looking at them as this complex interplay of psyche and physiology and emotions and the whole thing. So this is about addressing the whole person and taking that whole person complex into the healing process. And the last principle, number 6, is prevention. Probably said that wrong. Prevention. This is about preventing disease before it happens through things like lifestyle education, educating people about risks, encouraging habits that maintain vitality and resilience. So in naturopathic medicine, prevention is considered the highest form of medicine, is living a life so that the disease doesn't ever even happen. So I hope you found that helpful.
So throughout school, I know that something we've connected on is that in order to be the best healer or the space for someone to heal is to actually go through medical school and just this time of learning in a way that's going to help you also embody these principles so that you can be that example for your patients of the light and the shadows of life that can be intertwined and hopefully come in unity and be able to allow you to heal. So how would you say you've been able to prioritize your health and your vitality while also getting through some of the hardest years, I believe, of studying and having to be in this like super fixed type of program?
Yeah, well, it's definitely a challenge to take care of yourself whenever life gets really challenging and when there's a lot of pressure and stress. I think it's easy to kind of like break down, and to me, I'm going to be embodying these principles for my patients so that I can set a good example. And it's like, how can I be preaching these things and telling my patients to live in this certain way when I'm not doing it myself? So when I started school, I made a promise to myself that one of the most important things for me is to stay true to the principles of naturopathic medicine. So taking care of my foundations of health, which are like diet, movement, exercise, my relationships, sleep. So taking time to rest and not compromising even when I feel like there's too much for me to do. I will always make sure that I'm getting sleep, even if I have a test the next day. And even if I feel like I haven't studied enough, I'm still going to get to bed at my normal time. Yeah. I'm still going to exercise. I'm still going to cook my food for myself, in a nourishing way to nourish my body, because I've noticed that when I don't do these things, I also don't function as well. So even when I feel like I need to prepare more for a test and I'm like stressed because there's too much to do and I feel like I can't do it all, like I will prioritize taking care of myself and trust that if I'm doing that, I will function my best. And also I'm staying true to the principles of our medicine that I'm going to be sharing with people. And hopefully that comes through, you know, and it's worked for me so far.
Yeah, and I think it's really cool because then when you're able to experience those things throughout your life and throughout your journey with school, let's say, when you're able to, when you say to your patient, hey, I want you to focus on this aspect of your health that seems so minimal in a sense of like what medicine teaches us, where we need like a supplement or sometimes like a medication. So when we do give this advice to them, if we see that it really worked for us, we're going to say it in such a more confident way and be able to really tell them to do it with so much confidence, and they're able to then trust that if they do it also, that it could really benefit their life. But if you haven't been practicing these things and you come out of school and you're like, hey, you should do this, like I feel like that's why a lot of people that go into this medicine sometimes will like kind of like resort to more external things such as supplementation and stuff like that, which can be useful, but it's not at the core of our medicine.
Yeah, I mean, like one of our core tenets, right, is physician heal thyself.
Yeah.
And I like the quote that you can only heal someone else to the degree in which you've healed yourself.
Exactly.
So I think people can tell when you're bullshitting, and there's a lot of bullshit out there. And yeah, it's people resonate when they can tell that you're speaking from a place of like, I've been through this, like I've practiced this and experienced this myself. It just comes through so much stronger, and I think people are more likely to do the actual things that are going to actually help them if you have that experience for yourself and you've practiced it yourself.
For sure. Like one of the things for me is yoga nidra, which is a great tool for helping you sleep. It really clears the mind and allows you to like release all of the tension you might have built up throughout the day. And I've done it. It works so much better for them to actually adhere to the treatment plan because they're hearing me say that it worked, as opposed to something that I know I've studied it works, but I haven't done it myself. It's just different. But yeah, I do have some questions on the determinants because I have seen that sometimes these can be a very big part of a case that doesn't allow people to have as much movement as they possibly could. Like you could be doing everything right. They're like eating healthy, going to the gym, doing all these things, but maybe some of the determinants, such as, you know, their social health or whatever it is, if one of them is not in order or not being tended to, a lot of times it can really cause some stagnation in a case. So would you have any examples of how this has been apparent in your life, or maybe any examples with like a patient?
Yeah, well, so I think to start with, it's important to just like define like what are the determinants of health. So diet, relationships, what makes you happy, your passions, and what fills you up and, you know, makes you happy, rest, sleep, having quiet time, time to contemplate for yourself, movement, exercise, getting blood flow.
Another thing is like the way you see yourself, perception of like who you are can also be an aspect.
Yeah, so your attitude.
Kind of
So these are kind of like the foundations of health. And I think it's, you know, you can see how when one of those isn't in place, that everything can kind of start to fall apart. So like, for example, diet is really huge for me. Growing up, I really struggled with ADHD, kind of like moody, almost bipolar kind of symptoms, depression, and like a lot of anxiety and panic attacks. And, you know, like I was kind of messed up at times. And you know, when I really started to focus on my diet, and I realized that, you know, regulating my blood sugar, and my body really needs higher fat and protein, and like not so much sugar, and, you know, really quick carbohydrates like white bread, and you know, just like things that spike my blood sugar. When I really like got my blood sugar regulated with having more fat and protein, and eliminating all the toxins that are in our food. Like I would have panic attacks. Now I look back and it's like every time I would eat at Olive Garden or like certain restaurants, I would go home and I would like be up all night having a panic attack. And it was like probably like the MSG or some sort of chemical in that food. Just as an example. And then you know, switching my diet to cooking more of my own food and eating organic fruits and vegetables and you know, high protein and fat, it's like my blood sugar stabilized. I stopped having anxiety and panic attacks. I started to be able to actually focus. I wouldn't have these episodes where I would just go blank and like my brain would stop working. So like that's like just the first thing that comes to mind of like making sure that my diet is in check is like a foundation for me, where it's if I don't do that, then things start to fall apart really quickly. Like I start to get more snappy. I kind of can fall into like more depressive episodes, have like panic and anxiety. And yeah,
that's a great example, because our diet is a part of our life that we're just so used to, and sometimes it's hard to like be real with yourself and be like, I just know that this aspect of my health is not exactly where it needs to be, or I don't feel good after I eat. Like those are just all signs that our body is giving us, and that we should take and not be so attached to the way we've been living, because you've been able to see such amazing results in your health because you were able to acknowledge where you were not tending to your body in a proper way. And I just got a download as you were talking about how really our medicine is about reminding people that there really is no shortcut, in the sense of like getting to optimal health. Like it can be easy and not super complex. Like it can go down all the way to the basics, like how we were saying, what kind of water are you drinking, what kind of food are you eating, that kind of thing. But just because it's simple doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. And sometimes with these other things such as medications, we are able to think of it as like an easy way out. And with our medicine, it really forces you to be true with yourself so that you can see where it is that you're lacking, because your body does so much for you. So it really is important to listen to its symptoms as opposed to trying to shut it down. It's very much like gaslighting your body in a way. If you're just like, oh, here's a symptom, let me stop it, instead of like, let me see where the root cause of that is. A huge aspect of our medicine is to get to the root cause of disease.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So speaking of being honest with ourselves, I think it's really important to also look at like the social part of our life, because that's something that I noticed in my life I was really denying looking at. I felt like a lot of my symptoms for PCOS specifically came up when I was in very fight or flight relationships. So like, as some people call them, like toxic relationships. And I feel like even though I was trying to tend to so many other aspects of my health, such as like fitness or yoga and all these things, but there was always something like eating away at my health, I believe, which was being in fight or flight. And for some people that could be a friendship or a relationship with a parent or a relationship with an intimate partner. So I recently was listening to Dr. Anderson. He's a naturopathic doctor who talked about how he had a multiple sclerosis case of a woman in her 30s who was having a lot of improvement based on all the things he was doing to help her, but there was just an elephant in the room of her, as he calls it, having toxic boyfriend syndrome, which is a thing apparently. And so that is a huge aspect of our health too, like the relationships and the people around us. And I feel like that can be a really difficult one to actually be able to accept sometimes. So I just basically want to give a voice to that aspect of myself and to anyone who is listening, that you do have a right to just like look at these uncomfortable situations in your life and be able to make choices based on the boundaries that you can have. I know that we've talked about boundaries a lot and how important that is.
Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about, I think that in traditional medicine and maybe what people are oftentimes looking for is a quick fix. Like, I want to be diagnosed with this thing so that they know to give me this medication and then I'll be better. And, you know, a lot of the way that our healthcare system works is around trying to, you know, kind of like subdue symptoms and just, yeah, it's like rather than actually changing ourselves or like modifying our lives in a way like actually like, you know, getting to the root cause, people just want the quick fix of like, I don't want to have to change, I don't want to have to do the hard work, I don't want to have to break up with my toxic boyfriend. all that kind of thing. Or like, for example, like you were talking about PCOS, you know, it's like I have been coming to understand that a lot of people who struggle with PCOS, a lot of women, they're really overworked and overstressed, and a woman's body has a very delicate balance of hormones. And so if a woman doesn't feel like she can relax and, you know, like live her life in this way that, you know, that she's supposed to live, because she's has to go to work and like perform at work, you know, at this high level, and you know, make money, and, you know, live in this like fast-paced world that we live in that's kind of counter to her nature. Then like the hormones start to go out of balance, because the body is like, hold on, wait, like there's all this stress, like I need to make sure that I'm surviving. I don't have time to like think about making a baby.
Yes, exactly.
And so then the body gets all out of balance, you know, in that way. And so, you know, we try to give medications so that the woman can go and keep on living her life like in this stressful environment that really isn't conducive for how anyone should be living.
Beautifully said. That's a huge aspect of why I think PCOS exists so much in our society right now, because the hormones are fluctuating so much, and if you are not fluctuating with them and you're not honoring the fact that you might be in your luteal phase versus your ovulatory phase, like those are two completely different phases, and your body is in such different vibes during those times. So if you're like just not even thinking about that, then your body is totally not in line with what you're doing.
Yeah, and so as a society, maybe it's easier for our society to like keep things fixed in place, like in the system that's currently in place, rather than you know, adjusting to allow people to like live in a way that's more natural and honoring our bodies and our rhythms. So kind of a part of this is to actually do our work and our medicine. It's about empowering people to make the decisions and make the boundaries and cut people off, or, you know, break up with the toxic boyfriend or whatever it is, to actually like, you know, shift their environment so that they're actually able to live in an optimal way.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, I was gonna say that a lot of times with boundaries, what's been really hard for me is I've put a lot of other people's needs before my own, but the way that I've allowed myself to break free from that pattern is really valuing my body in a way that's very like tangible. So being like, whoa, like I literally don't have to think about breathing or my heart beating or any of these things, and my body is doing all of that for me, like while I'm sleeping, while I'm doing this. Like this guy who I love, like he's still not doing as much as my body is doing for me. So it's been a good way. That's like a little practice that I would do when I would think about like going back to a pattern or like a person that wasn't suiting me, is really thinking about it in this way of like, you know, at the end of the day, we do just have ourselves, and of course love and connection are so important, and we're here to connect with others, but you know, you got to put your what's it called, oxygen mask on first before you help others. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So I know that in our medicine and in our clinic, a lot of people identify so much with either their diagnosis or their journey to healing, and just like being on this path of like uncovering things and healing and health and all these things. So do you have any recommendations or experiences that you believe are worth sharing where we can kind of figure out a way to not be doing this so much and not identifying so much with like, how do I become a better version of myself because I'm not enough?
Yeah, well, I think you're talking about one of the common pitfalls of the healing world, and, you know, the process of healing is where you start to get into this kind of this like mental program of, I'm not healthy, I'm sick, I need to get better, I need to heal myself. And it's like we're telling ourselves that we're not enough, and that we need to be doing all this stuff. Like I need to go to the gym so that I can be healthy, or, you know, I need to be like on this protocol or this diet or taking these supplements, because like otherwise I'm not healthy and I'm not good enough. And, you know, just seeing how that can be so toxic, because it's really never enough at that point. It's like you there's always another thing. We can always be healthier, we can always be, you know, a more healed version of ourselves. So I think it's really important to talk about. And I think it goes back to me with the foundations, because for me, the way that I live my life is like, there's certain things that I do and certain ways that I live, embodying the principles of our medicine, where this is just how I live my life. Like I eat the way that I do because this is what makes me feel good. And it's like, I'm not going to put poison in my body. You know, I'm going to eat nourishing, healthy food that my body wants, that makes me feel vital and energized and makes me feel good. And you know, I'm going to go move my body because my body wants to move. And when I don't move my body, it starts to break down and, you know, gets stagnant. And so to me, it's less about like I'm doing these things because I need to heal, and more about like just like learning the basic way of living that is conducive for having a human body in this world. And you know, we all have a human body, we have this vessel, and no one tells us how to take care of it. So the foundations are the foundations, because it's like learning, how do I nourish myself, and how do I just have the basic habits of like, this is just how I live my life, so that I'm able to do what I'm here to do. And then we're not identifying with, you know, the healing process, or identifying with like all of the, you know, it's like taking on the identity of like a healthy person. It's like, no, like my identity is me, and I'm here to do what I'm here to do in the world, to live my life and be a human. And all of the like health stuff is just like, that's just ingrained habitual things that I do just so that I can be. And it's like, and then it stops being something I think about. I just like, I do what makes me feel good.
Exactly. And everyone is also a little bit different. So like hearing and listening to what someone says and thinking that that's fact is never good. Listen to your body, what feels good. Let's say you're someone who like is just generally a little bit more anxious. Like for me, I have a lot of like air energy, where like I'm just a little bit like overthinker vibes, you know? So for me, because I know that about myself, like I'm gonna do some yoga nidra before bed. And someone else might really struggle to get up in the morning, so like maybe they need like a cold plunge. And like you ancestrally might be more predisposed to having high blood sugar after you eat white rice, but then some people like in Asia might not at all experience anything from that because they're so used to eating that. So also just like paying attention to your lineage and where you come from, to really understand all the aspects that could be affecting you. And of course there's certain things that are just important for everyone. Like all our cells need water, so we need to give our body really great, amazing, good sourced water. Like that's obvious. But to add to what you're saying is just like really listening to what your body needs.
Absolutely. Like a big part of the work we're doing here is teaching people how to attune to their own bodies and their systems. And you know, that's not going to be forever, because once you figure out what your body needs and what makes you feel good, like that's not something you need to keep thinking about. It's just like, oh, I know this is how I feel good and this is how I function my best. Like with my ancestral lineage and my primal pattern diet type of like, my ancestors weren't eating like a ton of fruit all the time, because they're like living in like Germany and England, and you know, it's more like meat and you know, fattier foods and you know, vegetables. And so that when I eat like that, that's how my body functions well.
No, it's amazing. So I know that you've been intertwined with nature and living through the principles of nature for a while, but I'm curious what it was that led you to naturopathic medicine specifically, and you know, choosing to go to school here and all of that.
Okay, so like my life story. So I grew up in Illinois.
Woo! Same.
We both grew up in Illinois. So I grew up in a small-ish kind of town called Springfield. It's the capital, but it's not that big. And beyond just like having a really strong connection with nature from a young age, you know, I got older, you know, middle school and high school, and I was like, you know, kind of like any other kid, like I cared about being popular, and like I wanted people to like me, and I wanted to be cool, and I was trying to fit in. And I played on the varsity soccer team, and our soccer team was really good. And so like, you know, I was like friends with the popular kids and, you know, all that stuff. But it was like lacking connection so much. And like, just, I was like really kind of unhappy with, you know, the social situation, and, you know, kind of started to fall out with some of my friends from things that I won't go into right now. But at the same time that all this was happening, I started to kind of like, I would describe it as having a spiritual awakening, like from a pretty young age, where I was studying transcendentalism in literature class, like sophomore year of high school. And it was just like blowing my mind open. Like, I don't know how much you know about transcendentalism. Thoreau and Ralph Waldo Emerson and these guys who are just like really like preaching like how like God exists in nature. And like Thoreau went off and like lived by a pond in nature for like 2 years, like by himself, just subsisting off the land, just so that he could get closer with like the substance of reality. And you know, kind of like sent me spiraling. And I was, you know, growing up in the Midwest, like had not been exposed to a lot of ideas. I kind of want to backtrack a little bit. I had a lot of trouble focusing, and so I actually like kind of stumbled upon meditation myself, like in 8th grade. And so I had kind of like started meditating because I had this basic idea that a person, like, it makes sense that you can like learn how to become more in control of your mind and, you know, steady your mind. And like I wanted to be able to focus. I wanted to like not have these episodes of like I couldn't focus on anything, which I later learned was because I was eating crap food and like eating cafeteria food and all this stuff that was spiking my blood sugar. Anyway, but so I started meditating. And then, you know, from like kind of studying a little bit about Buddhism and then learning more about transcendentalism, I started to kind of have this spiritual awakening. And I was, you know, talking to my friends at the time about this, and they're just like not hearing it. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, you're crazy. And I was like, okay. And I'd be like, go home after school and like run around in the woods barefoot and like write poetry, and like was like kind of like spacing out a little bit. And then I started to fall away from some of the friends I had, and then started to like fall into like more of this kind of like alternative friend group of kids that were like a little bit more wild. Like some of my friends were in a punk rock band, and you know, and there was like, and then so then I started to experiment more with like smoking weed, and I did mushrooms for the first time. And then so it was like kind of like a combination of my early psychedelic experiences, which for me was like, you know, my friends would be like, let's get super high. And I'd be like, yeah, and then I'd get high and I'd be like, you know, like going into space, like meditating. So for me, like early experimentation with plant medicine was, I just want to say, I would not recommend that like anyone that young does that. But like, I was 16, you know. I mean, I was probably a little bit younger than that when I first smoked weed, but like,
I don't know, but like with psychedelics.
Yeah, I was like 16, 17 when I really started experimenting with psychedelics, which I still think is probably too young.
Yeah.
But, you know,
But,
that's
like,
what
you did
happened.
it,
That's what
yeah.
happened. This was part of my journey.
Yeah.
You know, I took mushrooms a few times, and then in combination with kind of my explorations with transcendentalism and, you know, Buddhism and meditation, like I just started to like formulate this like conception of reality, which I hadn't heard anyone talk about at the time. Like I was like, you know, theorizing about how we're all God experiencing itself, and like nature is God and everything is God, and we're just like, you know, this seat of awareness with a human body. And I'm telling my friends this, and they're like, again, not hearing it. And, you know, they thought I was crazy, and I kind of thought I was crazy. And then I found like Terrence McKenna and Alan Watts and some of these people, and I'm hearing them talk, and I'm like, they're having the same ideas I'm having. And I started to like really look at all of the ways that our human society lives in the world that isn't conducive with our nature and with nature. And I just started to think about like, well, how would humans live? What does feel like more natural? And I started to think about like, you know, cells in an organism. And I was like, what if a human community was like a cell, and they're all like in this like symbiotic relationship with one another? I started to have this kind of idea for having a healing center and a community, and then also a school for kids where we're teaching them about nature and, you know, using natural principles and helping people like grow and thrive. Anyway, so I had all these ideas. So going into college, I was like, what do I want to study? And at the time, just being really interested in human consciousness, I decided that I wanted to study behavioral neuroscience to learn more about how the human brain works and consciousness. So I went to UCSD in undergrad, which is right over there across the street. Actually, I still live pretty close. Learned as much as I could about the brain, and realized that science can only take us so far, and it's not very far when it comes to understanding human consciousness. And so then I got out of school, and I was like, what do I do with this degree? And then I kind of like remembered my original passion about like having a healing center and help bring people back into rhythm with the earth. And, you know, that's always been like this through line for me, to, you know, be an agent of change on this planet and to help people return to their original nature. And then I found out about naturopathic medicine.
Yay!
Yeah, and it just popped in my field. Yeah, my dad actually told me about it, and I was like, I don't know how this is all going to happen, but I feel like in order to do what I want to do, it felt like naturopathic medicine was a route for me to get there, to grow as a human so that I could become the person who I need to be if I actually want to do this work that I want to do. And yeah, and so then I started at Bastyr, and it blew my mind. I was like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. There are so many beautiful humans around me, and I started to like learn. It's like literally like, you know, you're
It's
at Hogwarts.
amazing.
It's like Hogwarts.
It is.
Like it's like yeah, it's amazing. So that's kind of my journey to naturopathic medicine.
What a beautiful journey. You know, a little mention of psychedelics. I just want to say that like when I took mushrooms, I actually had the transparent conversation with myself to go to naturopathic medical school. I had this vision of myself as a future ND, and it was like myself talking to myself of like, you cannot lie to yourself, like you have to go this route and like choose this path. So it's cool that you mentioned psychedelics, because like it's not the answer, but sometimes they really help us kind of like take the fog away from the ego.
Yeah, I think they've certainly been helpful tools for a lot of people. And yeah, certainly like would not be here today if it weren't for some of my experiences with psychedelics.
Yeah,
so,
no,
yeah.
That's why I felt it was like a good little shout out to psychedelics for providing that.
Shout out mushrooms.
Yeah,
shout
we
out
love you.
There's LSD.
That's amazing. Okay, so something that's been really cool that I want to share is being able to be friends like outside of school with these people, and then we're in the clinic and we get to like be secondary student clinicians with each other and like actually see how the other person practices. And it's been really incredible seeing Evan in the clinic, because I do see how the way that you live your life really transfers over into the way that you impact your patients. So it's been super awesome. And I want to know more about Evan Right Alignment, your business, and what you're offering, and what kind of humans you are trying to call in for that.
Yeah, great question. So yeah, I kind of started Evan Right Alignment, which is my business, kind of as like a preliminary step towards what will be my medical practice after I graduate and get my license. And so right now, it's more focused around health coaching and also doing body work. So one of my favorite modalities that I've learned in school so far, which I know you also practice, is craniosacral therapy. It has changed my life so much, and just, you know, it was like the single most important thing that I've learned in school so far, like hands down, and probably will be. Like genuinely changed my life, and at the core of what I learned from our teacher, Dr. Yasuda, and learning craniosacral is it's all about the listening, right? I mean, like you can go into like, okay, craniosacral is technically you're listening to the rhythm of cerebrospinal fluid in the body and the brain and all of the bones and in the head and the spinal cord are all like kind of floating and in this rhythm with each other. Like we think of it as a fixed thing, but it's really like flowing and in this rhythmic movement. Like even the bones in your skull have these patterns of rhythm that the osteopathic doctors who invented craniosacral therapy, or you know, kind of coined it, because really, as Dr. Yasuda was saying in our last class, it probably is more of an ancestral medicine that just hasn't been credited. But essentially, you know, the main thing is to listen to the body and say, what is the main thing right now? How can I support you? And just trusting that the body is this like amazingly intelligent system, and it will show you and guide you through the craniosacral rhythm to areas in the body that need support. And just through like really gentle touch and unwindings and things like that, you can bring flow and movement back into the body in these stagnant areas, whether it's, you know, in bones in the cranium, or, you know, even just like joints and limbs and organs. So you get it crosses over into visceral manipulation, which I kind of say what I'm doing is craniosacral therapy or body work, but this is all kind of like a synthesized technique of listening to the body, letting it guide me to areas of stagnation, whether that's an organ or, you know, a bone in the skull or a joint or wherever. And then listening to the body and asking like what it needs from me to help restore flow. That's a huge part of my offering. So when I see people in person, I will almost always do a craniosacral listening or just like a craniosacral session itself, because it gives me so much information about what's happening in the body that I can't really get if I don't physically like contact the rhythm. And then I'm also doing like a 2-month container right now. So I'm working with clients where we'll do 8 sessions within this container, you know, usually like every week, because it kind of builds on itself, and it's a combination of craniosacral therapy and then lifestyle coaching and just health
Nice.
coaching. So yeah, that's kind of like what my offering looks like right now. I also do some virtual stuff. So, if I get the chance to do an in-person session, that's awesome. But then we can also just do like weekly calls and, kind of just like a health coaching
Yeah.
thing like that. And ideally, like as far as like my clients are so different. Like
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I love working with men just because I resonate with men,
Yeah.
but I also work with a lot of women too.
Yeah.
And um, I think the most important thing for me with my clients is that I'm working with people who are motivated um, to do the work for themselves,
Yeah.
because like I'm not here to heal anyone, right?
Yeah.
It's like I trust in this unfolding, and I'm here as witness and to hold space and to offer guidance and support where I can. But it's really, really empowering to work with people who are motivated to make the changes in their life, and get really curious about themselves and to expand who they are as people. And
Yeah.
the craziest things come through in sessions sometimes, as
Yeah.
like you can't even describe it. Like you'll just be in the middle of a craniosacral session, like dropped into presence, and then just like these like really weird images or like intuitive hits come through, and you just kind of speak it out loud, and then it like sets off this domino effect that will end up like changing a person's life
Yep.
in the weirdest way that I could never predict or like logically understand or think about.
Yeah.
And so it's in that way, it's like we kind of get to be these channels for
Mm-hmm.
healing. And it's just so beautiful and amazing. And
Yeah.
yeah, I really like love what I do. And
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, and you're really good at craniosacral therapy and all the rest. But that specifically, I mean, like, it is such a powerful tool. One of the things that I've seen that's super useful with cranio is like a lot of times the story that a patient presents, like it's not that they're lying to you, it's just like sometimes the history that they're giving you is based on a perception that they have that might not be exactly what the body is saying. And so that's why it's important, as you said, for someone to be open and curious, because you could bring something up to them that came through, and if they're not open to it and they're so stuck in the story they're telling themselves of what is happening, then that could be kind of like contradicting and difficult to move through. Should we complete it?
Yeah.
Okay, we feel complete with this talk. We hope that you either learned something or felt connected to our hearts throughout it.
Thanks, Fjord. Thanks for having me. Love you guys.